Hello and welcome to this India Today special. This week, the vice presidential elections will be fought between Rajdeep Sardesai, the former West Bengal governor and the NDA candidate, and Margaret Alva, veteran Congress politician and parliamentarian. And joining me now is Margaret Alva herself. Appreciate your joining me, Mrs. Alva. If I were to say that you are fighting a symbolic token fight because the numbers are heavily weighted in favor of the NDA candidate, Mr. Dhankar. Would I be right that this is a symbolic fight for you?
I don't think it's a token fight. I think many things can happen. I'm fighting on behalf of almost 20 parties, and we are making a statement that things are not going well in Parliament, and we do believe this is the time for change.
Because you have actually written to a number of the parliamentarians talking about what you say is a breakdown in the fundamental democratic processes and the way Parliament is functioning. You yourself have been a several times MP. Is that what you're fighting this election about, that you believe that the Vice President, as the chairperson of the Rajya Sabha, needs to restore in a way the primacy of Parliament?
Yes, certainly yes. And at the same time, look at the alternative that the government has presented. A candidate who turned Bengal upside down, I would say from the cellar to the dome. You put such a person in the chair in the Rajya Sabha, where there always has been a certain decorum in the past, a certain, if I may say so, respect for the House of Elders. You see the situation as it is today. It's bad enough. But imagine having him in the chair to run that house.
Let's be very clear. You're virtually suggesting that Mr. Dhankar is incapable of ensuring decorum inside Parliament. That's what you're suggesting. That you believe that your rival is someone who cannot handle Parliament.
I didn't say incapable. I said the past record of what happened in Bengal is certainly something to be worried about.
But ironically then, the main party of Bengal, the majority of party of Bengal, which has often taken on Mr. Dhankar, that is Mamata Banerjee's Trinamool Congress, has decided to abstain from your election. They are not supporting you, even though you say that Mr. Dhankar is someone who was taking on the Bengal government.
Let's wait and see.
Are you still hopeful that Mamata Banerjee will change her mind?
Why not?
You made an attempt to reach out to her.
Well, I don't discuss everything I do on television.
Right? But you had a good relationship with Mamata Banerjee. Did it disappoint you that Mamata Banerjee, who is an integral part of the opposition, and you claim in a way to stand for this wider opposition, chose not to support you more openly?
Could be. But I still believe that she is the one who has spearheaded opposition unity. She is the one that has taken on the BJP openly and won in Bengal despite everything they did. And therefore, Mamata has got her own agenda, and let's see what happens by the 6th.
But somewhere, as I said, you are disappointed, ma'am, that as you said, if the opposition is to be united, as we even saw with the president election where there was cross-voting, now in the vice president election, a major opposition party chooses not to back you. What does that suggest?
You are all talking about the presidential election and cross-voting.
Yes.
Do you know that the votes that went to the president, to the candidate, were among the lowest in the history of elections to the president's post? And the vice president's, and the opposition's candidate, he got the 3rd highest votes polled by any candidate for the presidential election from the opposition.
But it's still a wide gap, Miss Alva, a huge gap. And if I look at the numbers in even the vice president elections, as of now, out of the 770 odd MPs, the BJP seems to have close to a 500 on their side. So, I mean, where do you expect this large-scale switch to take place?
I'm not saying that you fight an election because you're winning it. You fight an election on principles, on a certain agenda, and placing your point of view before the voters. And that's what we are doing as a united opposition.
What are those principles? Let's get this clear. You're saying you're fighting for principles for an agenda. Yes. What are those principles that you're fighting?
For a parliament that respects the right of every member to speak. Do you know there are almost, I think, 500 to 600 members who have not been able to speak in parliament since it came, since it was elected. You have adjournments, you have suspensions, you have, if I may say so, rule by the majority, and parliament is supposed to be a forum where people from different parts of the country, elected by the people, representatives, come to focus on the issues of the people, to speak about their electorate, to speak about their constituencies, their states and their concerns. Have you seen it happening? The chairman is the person who has the primary responsibility to bring government and opposition together, to work out an acceptable agenda to both sides. Price rise in this session has been the issue on which you are suspending members for demanding that you give us a debate on price rise.
Ma'am, let me just stop you for a moment, because the government argues that you cannot have MPs rushing into the well of the House and disrupting parliament. Disruption is the reason why they are being suspended. The government claims that the problem is the opposition has not reconciled to the fact that Narendra Modi ji's government is in power and they are the ones who set the policies.
Not at all. I am asking you, let's be very frank. You have a business advisory committee that decides the business for the week, right? The members of the opposition are demanding a discussion on price rise, on GST, the recent decisions, on price of even petrol, of cooking oil, of gas, of everything. And what does the government put on the agenda? Do you know? Sports, development of sports in the country. Is that the primary issue to be discussed, or is it price rise?
So eventually we've had a debate on price rise after 2 weeks of disruption.
It has started now.
Yes, the question that the government is raising again and again is, as I said, the fact that a section of the opposition has not reconciled to the fact that Mr. Modi is in power.
That's not true.
Are you approving of MPs rushing into the well of the House with placards in the House, throwing paper at the chair?
Why has it happened? Because the government has refused to accommodate their demand for a discussion on issues that are of primary concern to the people outside, to their electorate, to their constituencies.
Was it any different when Mrs. Gandhi was, Indira Gandhi had this huge majority in the 1970s, or Rajiv Gandhi had a huge majority in the 1980s? Again, the opposition then also would claim that their space was being squeezed out. I remember in the 70s, Atal Bihari Vajpayee on record saying that this government seems to be a government that is being run as a one-party, the parliament is being run as a one-party show. So has the same thing happened today that was happening when the Congress was in power?
And it's the same Vajpayee who called her Durga. This is what I'm saying. There were differences, there were debates, there was a Chandrasekhar, even from the Congress, who deferred and spoke. You had people like Prakashvit Shastri, Vajpayee ji, outstanding, Bhupesh Gupta, whom nobody could stop. You had stalwarts, even in Annadure. They came there, they spoke, they deferred, they attacked Mrs. Gandhi, they said things which would, shall I say, today not be acceptable in Parliament, because they have brought some code by which you can't use these words, you can't use those words. There was nothing of that. I've been in the two houses of Parliament for 30 years. As a backbencher, as a member of the opposition, even member of the ruling party, I have raised issues, I have raised debates, and I have spoken even on government policy when I differed. So, I mean, I'm saying that you can differ with the government. You can have a different point of view. After all, the opposition is going to have a different point of view. But does that mean to say you can silence the opposition? You can just suspend people? You can just throw them out for the whole session? You can adjourn the House. I was there this morning. Adjourn till 2 o'clock. You go at 2 o'clock, adjourn for the day. I mean, what is this? And why should Parliament function if people are not allowed to speak?
So, one of your agendas or principles you're saying is that you want to get Parliament to function again effectively. But I still must ask you and go back to where I started. Your decision, in a way, to take up this challenge of Vice President. I'm told Sharad Pawar is the one who called you up and told you, Margaret Alva, would you like to take up the Vice President's post? Did you think twice? Did you have a doubt? Am I being made the sacrificial lamb in this battle?
I'm not giving details of who spoke to me and who did not. The point is, they said they wanted a credible voice to stand with them and fight this election. I didn't go looking for it. I didn't ask to be put up. They requested me, saying, you're a very experienced person, respected face. We would like you to please come and help us fight this battle. Win or lose is not the issue. Do you mean to say we should have given a walkover to the government and said, well, you know, we don't have the numbers, so you put up anyone and win? That's not the issue. In elections, you fight in a democracy because you believe in something. And you believe in putting that point of view, your agenda, before the voters.
You know, two issues when your name came up, which I was told. One was that because you belong to a minority community, there was a sense that the opposition felt that you needed a candidate from the minority community. There was talk of some Muslim candidate, those Indian Muslims also, names being suggested, the likes of Dr. S.Y. Qureshi. Do you see that as one major reason why you are contesting this election to represent that view?
I am not party to all those discussions. And let me be very frank, I have always considered myself an Indian woman, irrespective of caste, community, religion, or what. I belong to the South, yes. But the question is there an issue on which parties feel that Parliament is not functioning as the constitution makers had dreamt?
So it's not a symbolic face from the minority community who wants to send out a message that maybe the ruling party does not have enough minority representation. You've taken up issues, ma'am, in recent times, including the anti-conversion laws in your home state of Karnataka. You've gone out and spoken out on that. You've claimed that you fear that minorities are being targeted and persecuted in your home state.
Is it only I who's feeling that? What's happening in UP? What's happening in the other states? I mean, don't just say it's Karnataka. It is an all India issue. But that's different. This election is being fought, one, to uphold the constitutional values to which we are all committed. Second, to safeguard the foundations of our democratic institutions, which again are under tremendous pressure these days. And third is, if I may say so, not only of members of Parliament, but even generally. Take the press, you are in the press. How free are you all to present, to write, or to say the things which you would have normally said if it hadn't been this kind of an informal emergency imposed on the president.
No, I'm free to chat with you and hear your voice.
Yeah, you can chat
You're
with
calling
me.
me an informal emergency. You were part at a time when
Yes,
Mrs. Gandhi
I
imposed a
agree.
formal emergency.
And
ma'am.
that is why the people punished the Congress government. We lost, Mrs. Gandhi lost, and Sanjay lost. We paid the price. She apologized. She had the courage to declare elections and go to the people after that emergency to know what the people felt. And the people were very clear that they were not happy. And she lost. She accepted that verdict. She went. She was sent to jail. She was harassed. Everything happened.
Let's not compare the emergency
No,
with
no.
what the situation is
And
today.
yet, within 3 years, the people elected her back.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Democratic processes have to be respected. You may be defeated, you may be elected, it doesn't matter. But Rajdeep, if a democracy is to be safeguarded and strengthened, there have to be voices of experience. I've been 30 years in Parliament. I've been a governor for 5 years. I've been in both houses. I've presided in both houses of Parliament, including a joint session in the Central Hall. I have seen how things work. We call all the parties, we find, see, Parliament is an institution where you function by consensus, where you function by the consent of everybody, not just majority and minority.
You know, you also mentioned about the South. And there is a sense that one of the reasons that your name was put up was because there was a sense that the South is underrepresented at the moment at the very top. Is that what you believe that genuinely? I mean, where is the North? As you said, the Constitution doesn't recognize differences between North, South, between Hindu, Muslim, Christian. But yet you are saying that you are going to represent in a way the South.
In a way, yes. In this election, we felt, and everybody has felt that, President is from the North, Prime Minister from the North, Speaker from the North, and now the candidate for the Vice Presidential election is from the North. There was a feeling, and I think that feeling is common, that we also need to have a voice in Delhi. We are a very important and large section of India's population, and why should the South not have a place in this whole setup in Delhi? On the other hand, you're talking about Hindi, you're talking about imposing your point of view. We have done the most development. Our population has come down thanks to our programs and policies. We are contributing a hell of a lot to the central kitty.
Who's we? South.
We is the southern states.
So you're saying the southern states today feel discriminated in a way?
In a way, yes.
In a way, yes. I want to ask.
And this has come up in so many meetings of, the Development Council, the southern states, the chief ministers coming. They have spoken about this. I'm not speaking for the first time.
Margaret Alva, in the middle of this vice president election, a controversy broke out because you went public and said that your phone had been blocked, that you were not being able to make or receive calls for 24 hours.
It was not a controversy. I'm sorry.
No, this was reportedly because you were trying to contact various MPs, MLAs, chief ministers.
Yes.
And that's why apparently the government had blocked or received calls. When the government was asked this, they said this is complete rubbish. That Margaret Alva is doing this because she knows she's losing.
Really, that is why the chairman of MTNL had to intervene at his level and restore my connection.
Your connection was not there for 24 hours. Your phone was blocked. Your calls were being diverted.
My calls were going to strange people. Don't know who they were, whether they were the intelligence people or whether it was the enforcement directorate, never knows. Because those are the now headquarters for everything. But I can tell you that they apologized and finally the chairman himself intervened to restore my connection, and it is working now.
Ma'am, you have had very good connections with Jagan Mohan Reddy's family. but he is seemingly aligned with the government. You knew why Rajshekhar Reddy was a colleague of yours in the Congress. You had very good relations with Mamata Banerjee. You all have worked together in the Congress. You have, I'm told, a decent equation with Naveen Patnaik. You've known his family also for years. Your family has been in politics for decades. And yet all of these individuals I mentioned are either abstaining or likely to vote with the government. What does that say somewhere?
I don't know what you say. I mean, why are you asking me? You should ask them. Why, after talking so much about opposition unity, about fighting and coming together before 2024, why, under what pressure, under what threat, under what blackmail?
Are you saying Mamata Banerjee or Jagan Mohan Reddy or Naveen Patnaik are supporting the government under some threat or pressure or blackmail?
You ask them. I can't speak on their behalf. But what's happening? Shiv Sena today, I'm not condoning any kind of corruption. But once an electoral process is on, Rajdeep, look at the electoral law. You can't meddle with the voters list.
No, but you can't have the enforcement, you can't also tell the enforcement directorate who they will arrest and who they will not. The law must take its own course. The opposition is constantly saying the ED is only targeting us. The government is saying you've got some corruption involved, that's why the ED is exposing you.
But the moment the corrupt people join the BJP, they go through the washing machine and they become, whether it was a Mukul Roy, whether it is the Chief Minister of Assam, whether it was Adhikari or anybody else. I can give a whole list of people. The moment they join the BJP, all the cases are dropped and they become holier than thou.
You know, Margaret Alva, you've been a congresswoman all your life. And I will put this out that when your name was announced, people brought out your autobiography of 2016, your comments about the Gandhi family, potshots that you had taken against the Congress and its leadership at the time in interviews, and said, is Margaret Alva really someone whom the Congress or the Gandhi family wants as their vice presidential candidate?
I am not going into my book. I am not on a book promotion campaign.
Do you regret some of those comments?
No, it's not part of my agenda today.
Do you have the full support of the Gandhi family?
I have the support of everybody in the Congress.
The Congress is fully behind you?
Yes, I have no problem at all.
In conclusion, therefore, what have you learned? You know, it's almost as if you've come out in a way from quasi-retirement to take up this challenge. What have you learned in the last 4 weeks? Have things now substantially changed? We now seem to be in a BJP dominant world. You did most of your politics in a Congress dominant world. What is the biggest change you've seen between then and now?
I certainly feel that there is a sense of fear both within and outside Parliament. People are not allowed to speak. There is no debate. There is no discussion. You talk on a public platform and you are charged with sedition or anti-national statements. People are in jail because of what they have spoken. People are in jail because of what they have written or tweeted. You have police go from one state to another and just pick up people and lock them up. I mean, what is the type of democracy that we are living in, Rajdeep? I have lived, I've had 50 years of public life. Yes, there were ups and downs.
There was the emergency, the journalists were arrested, if I may remind you again.
Yes, it was declared emergency and the emergency laws prevailed. Is there emergency declared today? And yet you all are being picked up? You all are being warned, you all are being threatened. I know editors who pick up the phone and tell the person, don't put that out today. I know it because people who are in the media have told me. And or they are told, please see that this fellow is eased out. And they are eased out. I mean, I'm not saying that things didn't go wrong, but there was an official declaration.
Okay. I want to therefore end by saying assume that you lose this election, since the numbers seem heavily weighted with the government, will Margaret Alva go back into retirement Bengaluru, or will you continue to speak out on these issues? Is there another book that could be in the offing in the future?
I'm sorry. I'm not predicting election results. I'm not saying I will win or I will lose. But whether here or in Bangalore or anywhere else, I think it my duty as a concerned citizen, as a public figure of long standing, to be able to point out things when they go wrong, and two, I can say that I am heard with respect when I go on a public platform and speak. Whether it is a women's movement or whether it is, I have now invitations even to international conferences to come and speak. I don't think I can be restricted in any way from making my point of view public.
Okay, we have a woman now president in Draupadi Murmu.
I'm very happy.
You're very happy about that, and yet remember, there could have well been a consensus on her name. First Adivasi, second woman president. There wasn't. The opposition chose Yashwant Sinha, who in a way many would say represented the old guard, and the BJP put out someone who represents, as you yourself saying, someone you're very happy about. So, is the BJP therefore a party which is seeing the future and the opposition is looking at the past? That Margaret Alva, Yashwant Sinha represent the past, Draupadi Murmu and to some extent Rajdeep Dhankar the future.
Dhankar represents the future. God save India.
On that note, Margaret Alva, as always outspoken as ever, some things certainly haven't changed over the years. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much, and wish you all the very best for the elections.
Thank you so much.
Margaret Alva, the candidate of the opposition for the Vice President election later this week. Thanks for watching.